Hello, Gaynor. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Reese. So today we're going to be talking about auctions and what a wonderful tool to really generate a really good user experience with your supporters. I'll share my screen and then I'll go through a few examples of auctions, and then we can talk about how to set up auctions. But one question is, why auctions in the first place? So let's go to a nice auction. I'll show you this in a moment. So as we were talking about earlier on, fundraising should really be about developing relationships with your supporters, bringing them along as you execute your charity mission, and then introducing the relevant fundraising ask, but making it an experience more than just trying to give us a donation. We're going to do something cool. So supporters are really looking for different experiences when they engage with you in fundraising, and different people are going to enjoy different types of experiences. So if you hold an event, some people just buy the ticket to the event because they want to attend the event. If you hold a raffle at the same time, some people will buy the raffle tickets. If you run an auction at the same time, some people will enter into the bidding experience. And raffles and auctions, they are two separate but totally different experiences that a different type of person will engage in. Okay, so if you are doing an event and you're holding a raffle, we always suggest hold an auction at the same time. You'll get greater supporter engagement. But also, as you're going through, maybe the year, and you're introducing these fundraising asks, to have a raffle one moment or a tombola another moment or an auction another moment, it just keeps things fresh within your charity supporter base. Okay. All right, so let's see a couple of examples of auctions. So on screen here, we've got quite a nice auction that actually finished in March, and it's on one of our branded platforms, We Are Beams. And the nice thing about this auction, so this is closed now. Normally you would see the bid button, and you can also see how much the auction generated. The nice thing about this auction is that it was undertaken for two primary reasons. By the way, can you see how many auction items there are? There are loads and loads of them. So what Beams did here, they engaged with a lot of local artists, and the local artists provided artwork that then Beams could auction off. Okay, so this was, yes, of course it was a revenue generating exercise. Okay, so that's one tick in the box. But secondly, and fundraising should always be about this, this is about getting the name of We Are Beams out to a wider audience. Okay, so it was also a marketing exercise as well. So each artist who submit an artwork, they also would have their own dedicated page of that artwork and details of that artwork that they could send out to their own supporter base. So this is a study of Tiffany, and you can see different images of Tiffany here, a little bit more details, and it would show things like the current bids, and then if the auction was in progress, you could actually bid from this page as well. So the idea here was that each of the artists would publish their own page, their own supporters would interact with that page, and potentially they'll come back to the overall page. But because each of the artists themselves have their own network, then Beams themselves could publish or could engage with an audience way, way larger than they could ever engage with. So Gaynor, yes.
Can I just ask, what's the page that sits behind that they've set up? I get confused with the campaigns. So if you click on the Blue Lagoon, for example, that's there, and it takes you to a page, what actual page is that?
Yeah, so this is what's called a further information page, and I'll show you how to set this up when we go through setting up the auction.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, but the further information page, it's not a primary page. It's not like a campaign. It's not one of the primary donation raffle auction pages. It sits underneath that still.
Okay.
And what the further information page does, it just provides a little bit, a place where you can put a little bit more information on the item you're displaying on the page.
Okay.
and it's got its own address, and yeah, it will just give a little bit more information. Okay. So this was a really good auction, I thought. Beams engaged with about 50 different artists. Potentially those artists, maybe they had even a supporter base of just say 100 each, and therefore that's a massive, massive reach. Okay, so when you're doing your fundraising, yes, think about revenue generation, but also think about future revenue generation is a function of engaging with a wider audience, which they've done via this exercise, and potentially the people who've bid on items in that auction, they would have gone on to interact with We Are Beams via other fundraisers. Okay, so yes, always think about your executing a fundraising strategy. We want income generation and also reach, and that reach in the future generates even more income. Okay, so that's a nice auction page. Let's have a look at a couple of others. So I just did a search on people's fundraising for auctions, and these are the first ones that came up. And so this is a default look and feel auction on people's fundraising. Talks a little bit about what the auction is, a nice little image there, when the auction is, and it hasn't got any bids yet, but I can click on the bid button. I put in my details, and then I'm in the auction. Very straightforward there. This is another auction. This looks like it's finished. It finished in September. The nice thing about this one is it shows you that only 15 people bid, but they generated, a reasonable amount of income here. And we can scroll down and we can see the different items that people were bidding on and the final bids that people would have also purchased through the platform as well. Let's have a look at this one. This is the Greg and Wirt charity auction. Again, quite a nice amount of income that they've raised here by only 26 different supporters. It closed relatively recently. Again, this is on people's fundraising, and this is a particular theme. Obviously, it's a brown theme, and it goes with their general look and feel. And yes, they were auctioning off 2 particular items. And how good is that? Like over £3,000 for each of these items. And this is a nice example of you can upload multiple images for each of the items themselves. Okay, so that was really nicely done by who set this up? The Grand Appeal. Well done on them. And let's have a look at the last one. So this is the Hendy Foundation's birthday auction 2025. You can still bid on this if you like. 28 supporters so far, over 2,300 raised. Now, the total is the sum of the highest bids at that point in time. Okay, so it's not as though the Hendy Foundation have received this money. Once the auction has ended, then payment links will go out to the highest bidders, and then they will pay for those items, and that's when they receive their money. So the total generated is a function of the highest bids. Again, some nice little text here, and their auction items are hospitality tickets, match day tickets, some really, really nice tickets. So I can imagine that these sorts of tickets, the Hendy Foundation probably has some contacts or some relationship with the people who provided these. And this is a really nice example of when charities engage with communities and companies, where the communities could be a school, a sports club, or companies could be a professional football club. And then the communities and companies support by providing really quite cool and compelling prizes that you can then raffle off or auction off. They've even got coffee machines. How cool is that? Okay. All right, so there's some nice examples. Let's go through now setting up an auction page, because there are multiple different varieties of auctions that you can implement via people's fundraising. So come to your control panel, log in. I'm now running this from the test platform, so we can make lots of different changes. Scroll down to auctions, and similar to setting up all other pages, click the create an auction page, and then enter the auction name, and then auction auction description. Some of the auction items that I previously showed, they had quite a lot of text, and we always say that people rarely read lots of text that you put on the screen. So try and, limit the text to being short, succinct, and descriptive. As with all of our pages, you can display the total generated on the auction page. And as I mentioned previously, that's the total of the highest bids on the auction at that point in time, the total number of supporters who've bid. You also input your auction website address as well. So if this is on People's Fundraising, it'll be www.peoplesfundraising.com. If it's on your own branded platform, just say Beams, it'll be fundraising.beams.com/auction and then something. You enter your auction bidding dates and times. And you can also enter an auction win notification. Now, the auction win notification, what it will do, when the auction finishes, the system will automatically send out the highest bidders an email with the payment links that they can then use to make payment of the items that they've won. So you can do that or not. Now, we've got a couple of really super interesting options, one called anti-sniping and the silent auction mode. Now, what anti-sniping does, let's take a step back. The default behavior, human behavior with an auction is that if somebody knows the auction end date, people will generally bid, a minute or 30 seconds before that end date with the hope that nobody else will have, or nobody else is doing the same thing, but nobody else will have time to put in a counter bid. Okay. And we see that on all auction platforms like eBay, for example. So what anti-sniping allows you to do, it allows you to do things like saying, if somebody makes a bid maybe 5 minutes before the end of the auction, add 5 minutes to the end of the auction. Okay. And so you can just imagine that if you're running an auction, say at an event, a sit down event, and everyone knows that the auction's going to close at 9 o'clock, but you've added anti-sniping, and then you get a bid. Well, actual fact, that's probably 5 minutes, probably a little bit too long. Maybe it's 2 minutes. So then somebody makes a bid 2 minutes before, and so then the host is saying, well, we've just got another bid, and now you've still got 5 more minutes to make that counter bid. You can see that entering these different parameters, anti-sniping, changes the auction experience totally. So let's look at that another way. If you're at an event and there was no anti-sniping, then there'll be, for example, maybe a countdown to the auction end date, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then whatever bid, highest bid was in, would be the bid that will win. Compared to the experience of somebody's just made a bid, now we're in, within 2 minutes of entering. Oh, by the way, because of that, we've now extended the auction time by 5 minutes. And then you can see as it rolls throughout the evening, a totally different experience, but the same auction structure. Okay, really, really nice. Now, also, we have silent auction. Now, silent auction mode is really, really interesting. And again, it really modifies the experience of the auction itself. If you enable silent, if you don't enable silent auction mode, what will happen is if I bid on an auction item, I'm going to receive an email that I've made a bid on that item. Now, if somebody outbids me, they're going to receive an email to say they've bid an item, but I'm also going to receive an email to say that I've been outbid with a link that I can click on to make a counter bid. Now, if I enable silent auction mode, that counter bid email is not sent. So if I bid on an item, I'm going to get an email to say I've bid. If somebody else outbids me, I will literally not know at all. Okay. Now, silent auctions or auctions that aren't silent, again, a totally different experience of the auction process. Absolutely totally different experience. And you can see that you could have, for example, an auction that is not silent with anti-sniping or not anti-sniping. So they're two different versions. And then you can take those two different versions and you could say, okay, let's have an anti-sniping auction which is not a silent auction, or you can have an anti-sniping auction, which is a silent auction. And therefore, again, we have the same auction structure, but multiple different experiences. And you want to use those different experiences. So you may have a certain setup for example, physical events, whereby maybe you don't have anti-sniping on and there's a very specific date, but maybe you're running this as a purely online auction where it doesn't really matter that the auction end date is extended. Okay, the key thing is you want to provide different experiences to your supporters. Okay, so we're going to set this up as anti-sniping without a silent auction. I then press create. I assign my campaigns, and then this is where I can now enter my auctions items itself. Again, every auction item has a name and a description, and you can also upload as many different images as you like. You set a reserve price. Now, the reserve price is published on the auction page itself, and when the auction finishes, payment links are sent out to the highest bidders unless the reserve price is not met. And in that case, there'll be no payment link sent out to the highest bidders because the reserve price hasn't been met. Okay. Now, again, use these different parameters to create a different experience or not. So if somebody has given you a particular item and you auction it, maybe to them it has no value, and because you've received it for no cost, the auction is just a bonus. So then you could potentially set the reserve price at quite a high level. Okay, but also, if it's an item that has an intrinsic value to yourselves, maybe you purchased it yourself, or somebody gave it to you and to them it had a lot of value and they just wanted to give it to you as a donation so you can get value from it yourself, you may want to set this at an appropriate price. Okay. Now, if you don't, if somebody doesn't hit that reserve price, then you could run another auction with that item, or you could raffle that item off, or you could sell that item via a shop. So again, just because you have an item that doesn't sell via the auction, don't think that's the end of the road for that item. Think about raffling off, selling it via a shop, etc. Okay. You also place a starting bid as well, and also a bid increment. So if this was a high value item, just say £1,000, you may want to put the big bid increment at something like £10. Now, the bid increment is only a suggestion as well. So if somebody bids for an item that's £1,000 and then somebody comes and makes another bid, when they click that bid button, the system will increment it to £1,000 and 10, but they can change that to £1,000 and 50 pence, or they can change it to £2,000. So the bid increment is just a suggestion. Okay, so we press create on that, and then we can view our page. And very quickly, what we've done, we've created an auction. It's telling me the current highest bids, the number of supporters who have made a bid. You can embed YouTube videos, Flickr slideshows, image carousels here. It will describe who it's supporting. It can be supporting one or multiple non-profits and charities. And I can go and bid in the auction. Okay. All right, so let's go back to editing the page again, because there are multiple ways we can edit the page. If we click on update, we go to the themes tab, and you can change the theme of the auction to anything that you would like. Any theme available, you can change the auction to that theme. So for example, this Hendy Foundation on People's Fundraising, it's the basic blue theme. Now, if you have your own branded platform like We Are Beams, This was their own particular theme for this auction, this inspired expressions art auction. You can add as many images into the page as you like, and the images will appear here in an image carousel. You can enter your social media links, and if you put a YouTube share URL, the video will appear in the about box as well. And you can also do things like embed documents, turn off and on payment methods that people use to buy the auction items, turn off and on the page questions. So the page questions are asked when people are bidding, making bids. Turn off and on page visibility, even ask for age verification as well, and also reorder the items on the page. So either A to Z, Z to A, change timestamp ascending or descending. Now, you can also ask for an optional donation. Now, the optional donation will be presented to the person buying the auction item. And for all of our pages, you can ask for an optional donation. And we always say, take that opportunity or give that opportunity for your supporters to give you more money. Now this is a really interesting concept if you think about it. You've run an auction, it's a fundraising auction, and it just so happens that you have a whole load of supporters bidding. Now the question is, why are they bidding? Sometimes they're bidding because they really want that auction item. Other times they're bidding because they love what you do and they just want to interact with a fundraiser that you've set up. It's a bit similar to a raffle. A lot of the time people don't really care about the raffle prizes they win, but it's just a really interesting way of engaging with you. So especially for those people who they just find it quite fun to bid on an item and they want to support you financially, they may bid on an item and they may win it. However, they may actually want to give you more money as well. And this is why you want to do things like linking donation pages to all of your fundraising pages for those people who just want to give you more money. Okay. And also the nice thing about this is auction item purchases are not gift aided, but the optional donation is gift aided. You can also link an optional tombola. So when people buy things as a thank you, they can be entered into an optional tombola. And also you can link memberships to the auction as well. Now, similar to all of our other tools, events, raffles, shops, you can restrict them to people who've purchased memberships in the past. So for foster care or women's aid, you could have an individual's membership, different tiers. You could have a community membership, different tiers. You could have a company membership, different tiers. And then you could say this auction is just for certain tiers of membership to engage in. Okay. And so therefore you've got the revenue stream that is memberships. And again, that implies a relationship with your supporter base, and different tiers give a different sort of value exchange. And then as a bonus to that, you can say, well, okay, you can enter our particular membership auction or membership raffle, or you can buy tickets to an event because you are a member as well. Okay. All right, so I don't think we made any changes to that, but let's click update. And then let's go through the bid cycle now. So I want to bid on items. The bid button will take me down to all of the items. I click on bid. I think starting bid is placed here. And again, I can change that to whatever I want to change it to. I put in my details. I can put a comment in. These types of questions are optional. I can turn these off, and I click bid, and now I will get an email to say that I've bid. This is a test platform, so it doesn't send emails, so I can't show you the email. Or saying that, let me just check. Did I receive it? Sometimes a test platform has emails turned off. Yeah, it's got emails turned off. Okay, you can see here that because I bid £2,000, the total raised on the page is now £2,000. Now, the current bid is £2,000. Let's bid again. So the last bid has been incremented by the bid increment, which I can change also. Now, if I try and make a bid, the system will prevent me from making a bid because I was the last bidder. Okay, so that's what the system will do. I can't outbid myself. However, I can change the email address because this is calculated on the email address. Maybe I can change the price and I can make a bid. And then what will happen is my first email address would now be emailed that I've been outbid with a link to make another bid. And I, as support at People's Fundraising, would have got an email to say I've made a bid. And can you see here, I've now got 2 supporters by email address, and the total has gone up, which is quite nice. And then the system will continue until the bidding dates have passed, and then the system will automatically, if you've set automatic notifications, notify the winners. If you don't set automatic notifications, then what you do is you click on menu, you go to the report section, and in auctions, you have multiple different reports. You have the auction bid report. Now, the auction bid report will return all of the auction bids in order with the payment links as well. So the auction page name, the auction item name, the bid amount, the bid date, the details of the person making the bid, and then a Google Pay, Apple Pay, debit, credit card payment link. Okay. So there are a couple of uses of this. So the first use is that if you don't automatically notify winners, then you have this information to notify winners with. So you could use a telephone number and give them a call, or maybe you're holding a Facebook Live, or if you're at a physical event, then you can download that report and you can say, okay, Catherine won the teddy bear. Well done, Catherine. Okay. Now, the other use for this report is occasionally bidders don't purchase the items that they bid on. Okay. Now, if this was a commercial auction, then there'll be some commercial recourse or legal recourse that you go back to them and say, well, your bid was actually a legally binding contract, and therefore you need to make payments. Okay. So the auctions you do, you just need to decide whether you want to go down that route or not. However, if you don't want to go down that route, and I'd suggest most charities don't want to go down that route, you would just choose the next highest bid on the list, and then you would get in contact with them and see if they wanted to purchase the item. Or you could take the item, and again, you could raffle it off, you could set up another auction, or you could sell it via the shop. Okay. Now, just another quick note on the quick statistics. So the quick statistics will give you a real-time view of all of your purchases through the system. And you can see here that there's no increase in the auction number of items. And that's because we've only bid on auction items at the moment. We haven't purchased any auction items. So these statistics will only change once people have paid for their auction items. Right, that's a really quick overview of auctions. Any questions, team? Catherine Gaynor, Catherine Rees?
I think what you said before, and it's not to do with auctions, but it's to do with the optional donation thing. We've seen some success on that, so I think just adding that in on everything pretty much is just really useful at the bottom, because people sort of almost feel compelled to do it, even if it's a small amount, so it's there as a prompt. But what's quite interesting at this, I'm sort of thinking of different campaigns that we can run, and we often get people like local business, small local businesses, or local artists, or people that want to do things. But sometimes I run out of ideas of thinking what can they do. But actually, this is quite a nice way, and I'm just sort of thinking about almost getting some donations, and almost like where you have like mini makers markets like locally. I'm sort of thinking, how can people donate something that is that they've made, and then we create a page that's almost a mini makers market, give them some promotion, and then but actually auction off their items as well. So I think that I'm sort of got some ideas now, I think, seeing it in action, which is quite good.
By the way, what you just said I think this is the idea behind We Are Beams. They engage with lots of artists, and
Yeah.
via that, they got a really, really good marketing injection, as it were, and then they generated some income off that. But also, from what you said that by putting the donation option on the purchase page, it almost compels people to make that. Yes, there are going to be some people who do that, but I would think about it in a different way. It gives people the option that if they want to give you more money because they want to
Yeah.
support you, they
Yeah.
will. And even if they've won an auction item that's £300, they may be saying, "Look, I want to give you £500, but I
Yeah.
can't because you're not allowing me to." So
I remember.
it's not about compelling, it's about giving people that option. They want to
Yeah,
support you.
yeah. I remember being once in a beauty salon, and I was having something done. I was just having my nails done or something, and this woman had just finished, and she went to the counter to pay, and she said to the woman behind, and from a marketing background, I was like inwardly smiling. She said to the woman behind, "I want to spend some money. What can you sell me?" And I just sort of smiled inside, thinking the actual owner of the salon would have just let her walk out, paying for her treatment. And nothing else, but she wanted to buy some product, and it sort of stayed with me. And I think it's that principle, isn't it, that some people will just want to give or do more, and if that opportunity is not there, they can't. So
That's right. And the other thing that you got me thinking about is, remember that with all of the pages, when they're things like from the shop or auctions or raffles, you can also, with your community and company partners, do things like 50-50 splits or 30-50 splits, and that's the concept of campaign splitting, right? So if I click more here and I change the campaign here, at the moment, 100% of the money generated is going to go to the test charity campaign. Now, if you, for example, have a few local businesses and artists who want to give more, but they're local businesses, so those things that they're giving you, they're losing money every time. But for example, their markup is 50%, right? And they're selling widgets. Just say they sell coffee machines. They could give you the coffee machines, and you could say, "Okay, we'll auction it off, and we'll give you 50% of the income." And that means that you are generating, the businesses and communities, they're either having their costs covered or generating income at the same time that you're generating income. And I
yeah,
think for small to medium-sized charities, those sorts of engagements are such an opportunity, because everyone wins together. The charity, the business wins because they're getting their products out there and they're having their costs covered or they're generating income. But also the business wins because they're being marketed through the charity. Now the charity wins because it's got a really good relationship of supply of goods and it's generating income via raffling, auctioning off those supply of goods or services.
do you have to create a page for each one of those businesses in order to allocate?
So there's two different ways of doing it. You can, within your own charity accounts, okay, so this will be, the example is Women's Aid. You can create a campaign for each of the businesses, and then when you're updating your page, you can allocate, for example,
Yeah,
15% to this campaign, 50, and so therefore you'll get all the money, but accounting wise, that 15% represents £1,500. Okay,
yeah.
so that's
So
one way
we
to
still
do it.
pay them directly, indirectly. We are. It tells us how much to pay the company in effect.
Well, the other way you can do it is the companies can themselves, and even on the branded platform, so the companies can have their own accounts within the, in your case, Women's Aid branded platform. They will go through the KYC of updating their bank details and entering their bank details. And then when you allocate the 50-50 split or 30-70 split, the system will pay them automatically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's, I think these relationships with communities and companies are really, really powerful, because you realize that so many communities and companies want to work with you. And again, the key thing with communities and companies is, by definition, they exist. And therefore, they're generally people who want to see them exist and propagate outwards and be more successful, especially businesses. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you can do it. You can do it either way. If you want to be in control of the money, you just set up campaigns within your account. If you want the money to go to them directly, which will reduce your accounting burden,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
then they go through the KYC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, the other thing on that as well is we introduce this concept of impact champions as well. Now, what impact champions allow you to do is, any page you set up, you can say, right, if people market this themselves to their own network. So an example is, it could be an influencer with a large network of supporters, or it could be a business with a large network of clients. You can say, anyone who um, pushes this page out, you choose the percentage. You'll say, we will give you 10% of the income generated from your shares only. Okay, so if I'm an
How
influencer,
do we add people as an impact champion then?
okay, so just say you say 10% and you click update. Now we need to find this auction page now. Auctions. Okay, what will happen is, on your walls and on your hubs and on the search results, there's a register for and this is the impact champion link. So the supporter clicks on here, and once they've registered as an impact champion, then they're given their own QR code and they're given their own link. Okay, so you don't need to go. You just say, this page is an impact champion link, and then what you'll find is, after a while, you'll have a network of people whose their own network is their income source. But you'll have a network of those people who you'll go to, and you'll say, look, we got this auction, we got this raffle, we got this event. This, you can get 10% from this, or 15%, or 50% from this.
Can
And
I just ask another knock-on question from that? So a bit like affiliate marketing, where you've got to declare that it's an affiliate link and that you're generating an income from it. So does the same rule apply to this, do you think? That when they're marketing that link, they need to be transparent in so much as it's a paid link in effect?
yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, you would have a network of affiliates, and then you'll say, this is an impact champion one. Go and now socialize it with your network. Okay, so it's slightly different from doing like a 50-50 split with a company or community. You can still do like a 50-50 split with a company or community and an impact champion as well. And
Okay.
again, these techniques, what they do is they really allow you to get communities and companies to really propagate out your page itself. Now, you may not get 100% of it, but you may get more money than if you didn't partner with communities and companies and impact champions, because you have a wider network that you're going to interact with.
Yeah. Cool. I like it.
I know, it's cool. Yeah, auctions are great, because this is a talk about auctions, but impact champions are also very good as well. Right. Any other question from yourself, Gaynor?
No, that's good for me, I think.
Okay.
I have a technical question, Nathan, about the images
Yeah.
that are in the auctions. Do you have to set them to a particular size, or is that automatically done within the platform?
Yeah, I believe what the platform does, it will reject images, I think, higher than 500 kilobytes, that's half a megabyte. But
Mhm.
what the system will also do, it will compress them. So if they're slightly over, it will compress them.
But
However,
what about the size on the page?
the dimensions.
Yeah.
So what you actually realize, well, whatever dimensions you upload are whatever dimensions the system will display. But that is a really important point, actually, because let me just show you a couple of the auctions again. So in other words, you're responsible for making sure all the dimensions are the same. And if we look at these last couple of auctions, let's have a look at this. You can see the impact of not controlling the dimensions. So this Greg and Work charity auction, they are really clever because they made sure the dimensions are the same. And when I'm going through the image carousel, the page doesn't jump around. But also what they've done is they've made sure that the text is a very similar length as well. So on the page, it looks reasonable. Whereas the Hendy Foundation, they haven't controlled that so much. And so it looks slightly, a bit wonky. Okay. And so what you ultimately realize is that you need to control the length of the titles, the dimensions of the images, and also the length of the corresponding text. And then it looks a lot nicer on the page. Okay. Another example is, I really like this example. So this isn't an auction. This is a shop, but shop. Right, Bedford Food Bank. So Bedford Food Bank, they're doing a donate food items shop over Christmas, and I can buy food items here. So again, this is a donation ask, but from the supporter perspective, I feel like I'm actually buying multiple food parcels for 2 or food parcels for 1, and then I can pay with debit card, credit card, and I can make an optional donation as well. But what they've really thought about is the length, the size of the titles and the size of the images. And so it looks really quite smart on the page, really easy to understand. If the images were all different sizes, it'll be a lot harder for me to comprehend what's on the screen. But how cool is that for a food bank? And it's not an auction, but it's a really nice way of doing things. And Catherine, I think this, for foster care, this is something that you could do really quite easily and nicely. Okay. Right, team. Any other questions? No? Reese, I know your mic's off. Catherine Gaynor. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much then for a lovely talk. I'll package this up and I'll put it up on our YouTube channel. We're always here. Any other questions or queries, just reach out and have great days.